Hello and welcome to the Chandler Burton Show. I am your host, Chandler Burton, as I am every week. I need to figure out a new intro because everyone knows that it's me because my name's in the title. Hope you're all having a good day today and a good week so far. As I said last time, my last podcast, I uploaded early because The Last of Us 2 was coming out, and I've been playing it. I've been enjoying it. I'm uploading early again because I really want to finish the game. I'm about 15 hours in, and the campaign is about 25 hours, and so I just want to get this uploaded and get going to the last. Really cool. So as I said before, for my spoiler-free review of The Last of Us Part 2, I'm going to do a written review of that. I have a website that I use through the Wix app, which is a free website to make blogs and those kind of things. So for my spoiler-free review, I'm going to do a lot of writing for that one. And then for my spoiler-filled, I'm going to upload a podcast with my sister. She's playing it right now. She's already told me some things that she likes. I've never really liked super long movies or TV shows or anything like that, unless it has a good build-up like Avengers Endgame or Star. It's coming out tomorrow at 10, and then also Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be having some gameplay shown on Thursday. And so if I don't beat the last 3 books that I read while I was in quarantine, I'll kind of give you a little bit of a backstory of what happened here. So at my job,